Hey guys, my name is Alee from At Home with Alee, and I make videos all on mom life, motherhood, lifestyle, all those kinds of things. First time mom life. If you don't know, I am a first time mom. I just had my daughter in April of 2022. So she's 9 months old right now. She was born premature, so we've had hurdles with that. And yeah, my whole goal with this channel and hope is that I can hopefully help out at least one mama out there. Even if I just spark an idea that makes you think of something else, that is my goal. So let's get right into it. Iced coffee because you can see the title. And yes, I like a little coffee with my milk. Okay, let's get into it. This video is all about postpartum must-haves for C-sections. I'm sure a lot of these things would translate for vaginal deliveries, but I had a C-section, so that's all I can really speak on. That's all I've ever had. I did end up having an emergency C-section, which if you guys are interested in a whole birth story situation, it's quite the story. But if you guys are interested, leave me a comment down below and like this video and let me know if you are interested, because I can totally do that. I'm happy to do that. I had a very interesting birth story, very interesting birth situation that I haven't seen a lot here on YouTube. And so if you guys are interested, I can absolutely do that. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up and let me know down below if you are. So like I was saying, I had a C-section, actually had an emergency C-section. So I didn't have a lot of things that I felt like I needed. And I had a lot of things for a vaginal delivery because that was my entire intention, was to have a vaginal delivery. Also, if this video is a little TMI, you clicked on the video, so I feel like you're okay with it. But if you're not, click off now. And I can leave one or two of my other videos down below. And you guys can go watch that if this is a little too TMI for you. But yeah, like I was saying, I used to watch videos like this all the time before having my daughter. I just wanted to know what I was getting into. Sorry, apparently my nose gets itchy when I film. But yeah, I just wanted to know what I was getting into in the whole world of postpartum and everything like that. So, elephant in the room, you bleed. You bleed. I think it mostly depends on you personally, how much you bleed. But I do think, I could be wrong, but I do think having a C-section, you bleed less. But you do bleed having a C-section, which is something that took me a minute to wrap my head around. Obviously not when I had it, but a couple of years ago when I think it was when I was in school. If you guys don't know, I am a licensed nurse actually by trade. So I had a general idea of what to expect with a C-section, but I also didn't think about it since school. I had no intention of having a C-section, no thought that I was going to have a C-section. Nobody in my immediate family and friends had had C-sections, so I really thought I was going to be giving birth vaginally. So a lot of that information from school, I didn't go into being a labor and delivery nurse, obviously. So a lot of those things from school, I learned for the test and just kind of let go, because I was like, I don't need to know this. I'm not planning on working in that field, and I'm not planning on having a C-section, so why would I need to know this? But little did I know, basically if you say, I don't need to know this because that's never going to happen to me, that's probably when it's going to happen to you. Anyways, yeah, I had an emergency C-section, so let's get into it. First things first, the obvious pads. These are just the Walmart liner pads that I used. They're quite thin, and that's something like I was saying, I feel like a C-section, you bleed less. That could just be me though, but I do feel like you bleed a little bit less having a C-section versus giving birth vaginally, just because I feel like they're taking a lot of that stuff that's going to come out vaginally. I feel like they take a lot of that when you give birth via C-section. I feel like they take that out with the baby, the placenta, the sac, everything. So it could just be me, but I do feel like you bleed a little bit less. So at my hospital, at least, they gave me a big stack of pads, and anything at my hospital, at least, anything left in your room when you're leaving, they throw out. So if you're not taking it with you, they throw it out. They can't use it for the next person. So I took everything. If also, I live in Canada, so that might be a little bit different, but I took everything. So they gave me a whole stack of pads. They also gave me the reusable mesh, disposable mesh underwear. You can reuse it, but mesh underwear. Did they give me anything else? I don't think so. Yeah, so they gave me the mesh underwear and they gave me a stack of pads. No, also they aren't those giant pads that I would see people online use. They were just a thick, long pad. So I used all of those ones up, and I did use these actually for the first little bit, these mesh underwear. But I quickly moved away from that because I had an allergic reaction to them. So I quickly moved over to my husband's old boxers. I found these way more comfortable, honestly. So when you have a C-section, because your scar is at the bottom of your belly, most underwear doesn't work very well for the scar. You can't have anything like resting right up against the scar. So what I ended up, and a lot of people buy like high-waisted underwear because they're planning on having a C-section. Because it wasn't planned, because it was an emergency C-section, I had to kind of go with what we had at the time. I wasn't obviously going shopping or anything close to birth, so I used my husband's boxers, and honestly they were so comfortable. I could pull them right up my belly. They were comfortable like shorts. I didn't mind. I would have thought I would have minded seeing like the shorts lines. I really didn't. I lived in sweatpants mostly and leggings, and I really didn't care if people saw my shorts lines. I was newly postpartum. It really didn't matter to me. So yeah, I used my husband's older boxer shorts. Sorry if you can hear my dogs jumping around, but I used these. I found them so comfortable, and these ones in particular, I don't know if you can see that. They're like mesh almost. So they weren't getting really hot or anything like that. They were nice and airy, and they were comfortable. At the end of the day, they were comfortable. They fit nice and loose. Yeah, I 100% recommend. That was definitely a must-have. Boxer shorts. If your husband doesn't wear boxer shorts or briefs or whatever, I would just run to Walmart and grab a pack of like cheap, comfortable boxers because they were so comfortable. I liked the leg coverage, the butt coverage. I wasn't concerned about them riding up my butt. And yeah, they came up nice and high, and I wasn't in like granny panties or anything like that. So yeah, that's what I used. Also, going back to the pads. Where did I put that? Here. Going back to the pads. So after I used the hospital ones, I switched to these ones. Also, what I hear so they're like this. It says very light absorbency. I would say decent absorbency, nothing crazy, but I would say like they're more than just a panty liner. Like they're a little bit thicker than that. They'll absorb more than that. But one thing I never heard people talk about is based on what underwear you're wearing, you either do or do not want wings. So based on the mesh underwear, if you choose to wear it, you could technically, I guess, get away with using wings, but it would be tough. Pads with wings, so like those like flaps that stick to the bottom side of the underwear. You could technically use that with this, I guess, but it would be a little uncomfortable. And with briefs or shorts or boy shorts, whatever you choose to use, if you're choosing that kind of route, there's nothing to stick the other side of the wings to. So you do have to kind of get pads that don't have wings, which I feel like is something that no one talks about. So yeah, pads without wings. And I did pick the long, so I felt like I had more coverage. But really, something thin like this was all I really needed for most of the time. After I used the hospital thicker ones, switching to these was more than okay. Like, the bleeding after was really slow and drawn out, and maybe that was just for me, but I've seen a couple other people talk about that. It's really just slow and drawn out. After the first few days, you don't need a lot. So most of the time I was just wearing something thin like this. And I didn't use the Depends or the Always Discreet or anything like that, because I'm someone, this is TMI again, I hate pads. I'm a tampon person. I've used tampons basically my entire period life, menstrual cycle life. Pads here and there, especially at the start, I guess. But I was a tampon girly, and now I'm trying to transition to the menstrual cup life, but I was a tampon girl. So pads, I really hate pads. So something thin like this was really nice and made me feel more human than I think a Depends or an Always diaper kind of situation would ever make me feel. That's just me. I know a lot of people say, oh my gosh, they're the best thing ever. Personally, I had no interest in that world. It just didn't appeal to me. Also, changing like your whole underwear every couple of hours seems a lot more intensive than changing just a pad every couple of hours. Just me? I don't know. Anyways, next thing. I did, because I had every intention of having a vaginal delivery, I got the Trust Us, Your Vagina Will Thank You. This is the Freedom Mom washer, peri-bottle kind of situation. So I did get this, and honestly, I did use it. Even though I did have a C-section, so technically you can wipe from right away. You don't have any stitches down there, so you can wipe. But I did use this a couple of times, mostly just because I had it. I just felt like it could really make sure I was getting really clean. So I would like spray this and then wipe, and I felt a lot cleaner doing that than just wiping. Especially the first few days when you are bleeding a lot and because you're using a pad, like you're bleeding a lot and there's just stuff down there. So I felt a lot cleaner if I could use this, I used warm water, spray some warm water and wipe it all up, and I just felt a lot cleaner. I also used a baby wipe sometimes just to make sure I was cleaning myself really nicely. Yeah, personally, that's what I did. C-section also, you can get those like silicone scar pads. You can use those. Those I'm sure are really nice. I didn't get them. More into the birth story, I lived in the hospital for a month after giving birth in the NICU with my daughter, so I didn't really think too much about my own scar. But what I did use was bio oil. I was using this on my belly for stretch marks, and then I did use this on my C-section scar once my doctor approved it, which wasn't right away. But right away, you could probably use those like silicone scar tapes. Sorry if you can hear my dogs eating in the background. But right away, I think you can use those silicone scar tapes. But for myself, I used bio oil after my doctor approved me. So yeah, I used that. Also, like I've said a million times, I wasn't expecting to have a C-section, so I didn't have those ready. For future pregnancies, for future births, we'll see where we're going, but my doctor said it could go either way. Either I will have a scheduled C-sections, or I can try a VPAC depending on how my pregnancies develop. But more on that in a birth story if you guys are interested. Next thing I'm going to get into is more like postpartum, not specific to C-sections, because honestly I feel like that's everything. Other than like Advil, Tylenol for any pain, basically aftercare. Like, you can't drive for quite a few weeks. I think I could start driving around 5 weeks. I think they say technically 6, but my doctor cleared me to drive around 5 weeks postpartum. You can't lift anything, so you can't lift the laundry basket. You can't lift they say you can't lift anything heavier than your baby. But I remember from school, it's basically anything heavier than 10 pounds. You shouldn't be lifting or moving, stuff like that. So that was mostly it. I'm sure your doctor will go over like those kind of postpartum things, but my must-haves were mainly thinner pads, less pads, no wings, Advil, Tylenol, bio oil for the scar, and boxers. Nobody talks about that. Wear your husband's old boxers or his current boxers, whatever's nicer for you. But yeah, I loved wearing those. Those were so comfortable, and no one ever talks about that. So those are my main postpartum C-section essentials. Now postpartum, like, mama essentials. This may be more specific to breastfeeding mamas, but or breastfeeding pumping mamas. If you're formula feeding, this may not pertain to yourself. But first thing, and I can do a whole separate video about like breastfeeding, pumping, formula feeding, because we've done all of the above, and my must-haves and my tips and tricks for those. But just to add it to here for the mamas that aren't gonna wait for that. This is the bra I basically, not this particular, this type of bra is basically what I lived in postpartum. It's a super nice, seamless, padless, actually it used to have pads in it. I only recently took those out, so I did have the pads in them for a long time. This is just like a bralette sports bra kind of bra. I hated nursing bras. Hated them. And I just got a multi-pack from Amazon, so I don't know if I got like a cheap, super cheap version, and so they're really uncomfortable, but the band was way too big for me. But the like actual bra part was way too small. I have nice big boobies, and they didn't work. They weren't comfortable, they didn't work. So I found these at my Costco. They were in a 2-pack, but these are the brand Halston is the brand, and I got the size extra large. Like I said, I have big boobies, so I used these. I lived in these. I have like four or five of these, and I lived in these. These were so much more comfortable than nursing bras. So if you're not nursing, go for these 100%. They'll kind of help with your boobs kind of going back down to size. If you are nursing, I used these. I don't know what the logic is with nursing bras, and I can get into this with like a regrets video or something like that. I don't know what the point is of a nursing bra if you're unclipping and showing your whole boob versus just lifting up. So I would just wear these super comfortable, seamless bras, and when I was nursing, I would just pull my boob out the bottom, honestly, or even out the top, doesn't matter. And it was so much more comfortable than a nursing bra. So yeah, seamless bra, must have. Nursing pads, must have, especially right at the start when you're just leaking. no matter what you're doing, you're just leaking. Nursing pads, must have. Doesn't really matter the brand, I don't find. I've tried a couple of them. These are the Medela ones. And I like them. They work. They do have like a part to stick into your bra. I never found that that worked. It doesn't really hold it in place at all, but they're just round pads. Put them right in front of your nipple. They work. Nipple butters. My favorite was the Earth Mama nipple butter. It's an organic one. Also, which I never knew about nipple butters, and no, I feel like no one talks about it. A bunch of nipple butters, you have to rinse off before you nurse. So you're nursing, you put the nipple butter on, you have to go about your day, your 2 hours, hour and a half, however long you have in between nursing. 2 hours, hour and a half plus, I guess, between nursing. And then before you nurse again, you have to go and wipe off your nipples before you can nurse. What sense does that make? I'm sorry, what sense does that make that you have to wipe it off and then you can nurse? This is safe for pumping or nursing, and I used it for both. Also, sore nipples, and you're saying I have to wipe it off and then I can nurse or then I can pump. A lot of them you can't pump with them either. What? So Earth Mama organic nipple butter works and you don't have to wipe it off. Like, what? I don't know. On that note, these are really nice. These are Tender Care Hydro Gel Nursing Soothing Gel Pads. This pack came with 4. Also, I thought it came with way more, and they say they're only reusable for up to like 24 hours or something like that. So don't get fooled with the reusable. What does it say? Reusable for up to, yeah, reusable for 24 hours. So don't get fooled with the reusable nursing cooling pads. Only reusable up to 24 hours. So not really that reusable. But so these are, again, you have to wash yourself off before you can nurse or pump. So yes, they feel nice and they're super cooling, and especially if you put them in the fridge, they feel so good. But just keep in mind, you do have to rinse these, like you do have to rinse yourself off before you can nurse or pump. But if you're postpartum and you've got sore nipples, you're looking for any kind of relief, and so these definitely did provide some relief, at least for myself. But there is that annoying, but you have to wash them off. Wash your skin off before you can nurse or pump. And now just some supplements at the end here for things that I used. I did use fenugreek. I had many postpartum anxiety moments of worrying about my milk supply, especially when I was breastfeeding, because I wasn't sure how much she was getting. Obviously, there was no kind of quantitative amount that I was able to measure. She wasn't drinking from a bottle of pumped milk or a formula bottle of milk. So when you're breastfeeding, you're just like, I hope I'm making enough. So I did get the fenugreek. This is Nature's Bounty brand. I don't think it really matters. These actually smell really good. They smell like maple syrup, and they say, you know, you're taking enough if you start to smell like maple syrup. I never really found like I smelled like maple syrup, but I took it twice a day, and I felt like it worked. I don't know. There's mixed feelings on fenugreek though, so do your research if you think it's worth it for you, because yeah, there's mixed feelings on that. And then the other thing I used a lot actually was sunflower lecithin. Sunflower lecithin. I just got this off of Amazon. I didn't use, I used half of this. So I just really used this at the start and when I was pumping mostly, because I kept getting clogs. So what this does, I guess I should explain, this theoretically is supposed to help with clogged ducts. Does that even say that on here? It doesn't. Supports liver function, but I had read that this sunflower lecithin helps with clogged ducts, and I found especially when I was pumping, clogged ducts I was getting a lot of them. So I used this. Also, I think if you're just a new mama and you're getting a lot of breast pain, try using this. I did find some relief with this, especially at the start when you're figuring everything out. Try it. It might work for you. Talk to your doctor first with any vitamins, supplements, things like that. Talk to your doctor first and make sure they're safe for you and your medical conditions, situation. But those were two that I used. Whew. And my daughter is waking up from her nap again, so end of the video. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. I feel like every person's different, every situation is different, every birth experience is different, but I hope I was able to help someone. And really the thing I really wanted to drive home was boxer shorts. People don't talk about that. Boxer shorts and wingless pads. I don't need to show them again. Boxer shorts and wingless pads. Those are my main advice pieces of advice to anyone having a C-section. Other than that, I really feel like you don't need a lot. I feel like there's a lot of hype on the internet about all of these things you need. I don't think you need a lot of stuff. There are a couple of things that I think make things a little bit easier, and I hope you got a little bit of that from today's video. But yeah, make sure you guys come back for future videos. I want to do a whole bunch. So if you have any suggestions, make sure you leave them down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I gotta go get my baby. She is rolling around in the crib again, so I gotta go get her. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.